Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to the Monday edition of Bye weekly behind-the-scenes DM-only live stream Crafting the Deep, which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Call from the Deep. If you're playing characters Gottwald, Moxabra, or Toro, this stream is not meant for you, but for you, you are welcome, assuming you're all, of course, okay with spoilers. We stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday. You can join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. For our campaign, we use Roll20 for streaming. I use OBS Studio. By the way, tomorrow is going to be a big day because tomorrow is the D&D reveal of the 2024 Player's Handbook. Maybe I'm overhyping this video, but to where they're going to like do a deep dive into what's in the handbook and more information about it. And I was planning on doing a whole like reaction video about that, which I mentioned in my Patreon update. And then motherfucking Nintendo came out today and said they're going to do their big Nintendo June Direct on the exact same time, Tuesday. I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me with this. So I'm going to have to cover all these things. It's going to be a really, really big day tomorrow. But today, we're just going to talk about Call from Deep and the Styes, and we're in the middle of the Styes. We're in the warehouse. We had no Reese last weekend. We will have no Raymond this weekend, so that's why I kind of narrated Toral's character getting like locked up in a crate, and then this week I narrated like Matt getting like knocked over a railing or something. And yeah, it does get funky when you have, you know, you're in the middle of an area, not between quests or something, but that's just the way it happens. And, you know, people who watch our Patreon game, which I totally recommend that you do, we've definitely tried to, sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it just doesn't, of like why characters are in this spot and why they're not, but ultimately we just fucking roll with it. One thing I've changed, well, I guess I haven't changed anything since last time we did the stream, but in terms of, you know, as always, the original, the Styes is for level 11, and my party is level 8, so a lot of the changes I'm making were to scale things down. In this case, changing all the scum into deep scions, which is still very thematic, although the stat block, I had to give a ranged weapon to, because this is a situation where they're going to get caught probably needing to make ranged attacks, and it would behoove the players to try to reach them. So this fight's going to open up with, or this session's going to open up with a battle. And notice how I've actually used the thug token art and not a deep scion. So the party's going to get a nice rude awakening when they start fighting this guy and realize, like, gosh, he seems to have a lot of health. And then at some point, I will trigger the fun reveal where it turns out that it is a Deep Scion. Now, the weird thing is the stat block for the Deep Scion includes a battle axe, which can be wielded with one hand or two-handed, is a D8 or a D10. And that's actually more powerful than all of its monstrous hybrid form abilities of just biting and clawing. So it's like when they transform, they kind of become less powerful. I mean, I guess they could always just still wield their axe, but then like, what's the cool part about transforming? Like, "Rah!" And then I swing my axe, you know? Now, there are two main differences. One of them is they can do their Psychic Screech, which is basically once per battle, they can force everybody to make a Wisdom saving throw or be stunned for a turn. That's pretty huge. And they technically get 3 attacks in their hybrid form using their bite and 2 claws versus the 2 battle axe attacks. Haven't done the math to figure out if that's mo beta in terms of average amount of damage or whatever, because especially if you're doing the 2-handed axe. But maybe it'll be like I'll do some hybrid, some others. I don't know. We'll figure it out together. And I think having everybody use their Psychic Screech would also probably be a pain in the ass. But again, one of those things you just try to balance it out with the combat and feel like how it's going. If I was, you know, out to really just mess with the party, then yeah, you'd try to stagger those Psychic Screeches as much as possible and force all of them to do it. I don't know if this one, and this one doesn't have the, you know, like, what is it, Harpy song thing, where if they make the save, then they're immune to it. So I would imagine one of them, you know, you could make the save and be okay against the first Psychic Screech, and then like future ones, you would be still have to make the save over and over again. So I also like that their transformation is a bonus action. This should be the case for all shifting creatures, by the way. Nobody, DM or player, wants to spend a full action in combat just shapeshifting. It does not feel good because you can narrate how cool it is, but especially if you're a bad guy, you're the DM playing an enemy and you're having to use a whole action to shapeshift, it just sucks. Versus having it be a bonus action where like then they can immediately do their cool thing. So I do enjoy that. I gave them thrown hand axes because they're all about strength. So I was trying to look at strength-based ranged weapons, which is I think just thrown weapons, which unfortunately limits their range to also basically giving them disadvantage for most cases, but it's at least something. Otherwise, you'd have to give them like crossbows or short bows, but the damage would be kind of garbage. Again, I don't know what the math would be for that, because if they try to attack right here and stay on the ship, yeah, it's disadvantage. Because the main thing you want to do is have them get out here on this rickety platform, because this rickety platform is what makes this combat more interesting. If we go down to where it's listed, yeah, if using the full action to transform, I agree. Let's see, where are we at? I didn't ever put numbers on these things, but I can kind of remember where everything was. This was the crane area. Walkway around the crane is rickety, but more solid than it looks. The real danger on the walkway and the bridge comes from the uneven surface and lack of a railing. A character who moves no more than 10 feet per turn and devotes all their attention to watching where they place their feet is in no danger moving through the area. So if you move 10 feet and don't do anything else, you don't have to make the save. But any character who moves more quickly or performs any other action in addition to moving, which most of the time you are, must succeed on a DC 13 dex save or fall prone, which is a pretty big save. If the saving throw fails by more than 5, so you're doing an 8 or less, I guess. 13, 14, 15, I guess you're doing a 7 or less. The character slips and falls 60 feet. The fall only deals 3d6 bludgeoning damage to the soft, deep mud below, but the mud is contaminated. I don't really give a crap about the contaminated mud part. I think I might just make it pure damage. Just do 66 bludgeoning damage if they fall. But I love the fact there's like 2 different penalty systems here. Basically, you're constantly having to make that save just by moving around in here. Now, one thing my players may try to do is like, oh, well, I have a climb speed. Does that help me here? I don't know. Maybe I would give advantage or something. I'd have to look in to see how climbing speed works. I guess it's specifically, it might change depending on, because Savra has like magic slippers that allow her to literally like climb ceilings and shit. So in that case, yeah, probably uneven surfaces wouldn't bother you as much, versus if you just had a climb speed, then I might be more picky about that. I don't know, but that's an interesting thing we got to remember. And these creatures, I think it even says the scum intimately familiar with the walkway and the precarious bridge, so they move in action normally with no risk of falling, which I love. So they're just part of that area, and maybe it's part of their hybrid form or something that they can move around in there. Clearly, though, I need this fight to come back in the walkway. So this guy, initiative's going to matter a lot here, because if Gottwald goes first, he's going to fucking try to grapple this guy, and this guy's going to need to try to spend his turns getting out of the grapple. The good news is he's got a +4 to strength, so that may be possible against Gottwald. But the bad news is, if he beats me on initiative, it's going to be really nasty, because he could take this guy out of the fight and they could fight this guy separately, which I would let them at that point. These guys would not rush in there to try to do that. Even if they heard something happening, they would just get ready to fight, because it would not behoove them to rush inside and necessarily fight anybody. They want to fight out here. There's a guy waiting inside this crane, by the way, is going to pop out. And then there's these 2 guys down on the ship. I believe as written, they're all 4 technically just hanging out on this walkway, but that felt a little crazy to me. I was going to put some on the ship. And now Savra has seen all that, so I kind of have to stick with that. Just full speed while climbing, yeah. Doesn't necessarily mean you would be like sticking to the floors or anything. But Savra's slippers may actually grant her that ability. I don't know. So I do like the fact that we can kind of surprise them. It's almost like you're subverting their meta knowledge by showing them like, oh yeah, these are thugs. They're a little bit more tougher. But in fact, they're not. They're actually deep scions. Although I think AC-wise, it's basically the same. And offense-wise, it's probably only slightly stronger than an average thug. But they definitely have twice the hit points, and then that deep scion transformation should be pretty freaky. The best thing to do, of course, I think, is to bonus action transform and then do their psychic screech, which is that AoE stun. That's an amazing use of their of one turn, especially if you have multiples. But hopefully we can make this fight, interesting and fun given this extra rickety bridge, because it would not be interesting if the entire fight is over and then they come out onto this bridge and have to start making those saves, although I certainly would make them do that and gonna end up just falling down and getting hurt. I don't think the upper deck itself has anything going on, right? So the upper deck is literally just the ship up here. Chains are solidly attached. There's no danger of them crashing the ground. Also feel like a dangerous environment. The grate through which water flows into area D7 isn't locked or trapped. I would just have it be open, honestly. Lifting it open creates a lot of noise. What's going to create a lot of noise is fighting on this ship. So I fully expect them to alert the enemies down below. Shatter or Thunder Wave to break the platform the crane is on, dropping the ship. God, it is pretty cool to do that. That would be so effective if the players do that against the enemy, because it would just wipe out like so many dudes in here and just take out the whole ship. Yeah, that'd be an interesting maneuver. Shadow to break the platform the crane is on. Now, I think the crane is supposed to extend all the way to the ground. Again, the artwork is not the same. This art is not correct, basically. From what I read the description, and in fact, you can actually climb the crane from the very bottom to the top. It mentions that, I think at the very beginning. Not there, not there, not there. Sartori's warehouse. Reaching the ship without magic requires climbing the crane, which takes a successful DC 20 athletics check. So not exactly easy to do that, but that means the crane actually extends below. I think the walkways are supposed to be built around the crane. So you could argue I cast Shatter, and that would destroy the walkway, and then the crane remains. And then like maybe an additional Shatter might start breaking the crane. Or I would just say, oh, I could just be a pissant DM and be like, no, the Shatter's not enough to destroy the crane or anything. They still don't know the situation though. There may be like people in there or something, so I don't know. I would probably at first, if she does it first, I would destroy the walkway and have it be crumbling apart, but leave the crane, and then see if she would want to do it again, and then we can get things interesting and use the spell slots to do that. But God, in terms of like what that would do to the occupants, yeah, I don't know. It would be rough. It would do a lot of damage to everybody inside for sure. I don't think it does start from the platform. I think it's from the description. Again, the artwork I don't think is correct. I'm going by the written description, which makes it sound like the crane actually extends all the way to the bottom, and then the walkway is kind of built around the crane. Plus, I don't see a rickety walkway holding up this giant fucking metal crane. It doesn't make any sense to me physics-wise. I think the crane has to be touching the ground, but I am not in construction. Doesn't seem like it's up to code, though. Yeah, a narrow, rotting walkway surrounds the rusting bulk of this ancient crane. So the whole thing is like, they keep referring to this as a walkway that's like around the crane, and not that the crane is placed on, like, I think some of you are picturing this being a balcony and like there's a crane on it. I don't think that's the case. I think the crane is the whole thing all the way to the ground, and then there's just a walkway built around it. If that's not correct, that's how I'm gonna that's how it's gonna be in my game though. I don't see how you could fit 3 scum hidden inside the crane shed, stand guard over this area. That doesn't seem correct. I actually increased the number of dudes, didn't I? There's only 3 here. I think I might have taken one from the inside of the ship and moved them up here, so it's actually 4. But obviously they're not scum anymore. They're deep scions, so hopefully it balances it out. So I think there's fewer people inside the ship and more kind of guarding the outside of the ship. Also, I thought it'd be makes sense to have the Deep Scions be able to show their true hybrid forms inside, and that's kind of their like main base of operations, where they can actually like show their true forms. And I don't know if they're the true forms, but they've become the true forms, something, they're mutated forms. And hence why they have this like steaming water and these pools and all that shit in there. And it won't be a surprise anymore. In fact, this will be a case, which I will try to do, is actually ambush the party, because the party will presumably be making a ton of noise up here fighting these guys, and these guys can be yelling down below. I could even be obvious about that, although that would maybe give away the game too much if one person yells down and says, hey, there's guys up here, and then the party knows, like, oh, well, shit, we gotta be ready for that, versus them just having a battle and hearing the sounds. And then I would argue that these guys would definitely be aware of, you know, something going up, and they would actually be able to, like, you know, be ready when this door opens to immediately pounce on the party and get a big surprise round off, which is why I've moved Mr. Dory over to this door, and then he can be kind of in the doorway shooting whatever, you know, surprise round spells he's got, which we're going to look at his stat block again too. Good job, Morgan. Sea creature, so it's covered by ocean. Yeah, OSHA would not abide by this. All kinds of rules being broken in here, but that's what you get for being the rich asshole in charge, right? You get to be on your logo joke, but oh no, we lost the stream. Are we back? Oh, I'm sorry. I won't make any political jokes. Reconnection successful. Am I still live? I think I'm still okay. OBS dropped me for a second. I don't quite have all my bars. That was scary. Are we still okay? We just had a minor internet blip, but I think we're okay. All right. Everything's good. I'll wave. Make sure that's... Yep, I think we're okay. All right. So the ship... So this should be just a straight up battle here, but again, we'll see how it works with... Oh, I was going to talk about, is there another good ranged attack weapon I should be giving them instead of hand axes? Because it is going to suck to be out of the range. But I put some on the ship, and I just know the players are going to be, you know, on this rickety walkway, and these guys are guarding from afar. It just feels like if you're a guard, you're going to want ranged weapons anyway. That's the whole, like, point. But they're not really good with dex. So I gave them throwing axes, and I figure I can bake that into their multi-attack. They can probably hurl maybe 2 axes, which is good damage, but the if we're following the rules, anything over 20 feet is disadvantage, which is going to make it a lot harder for them to hit anybody, which literally is... Like, 20 feet is not good. It would basically be disadvantage everywhere. So the only other option I can think of is to just give them a, you know, light crossbow that has no ranged issues, but doesn't do as much damage. So what do you think is more effective here? Do we stick with a thrown strength weapon, which is going to probably give them disadvantage while they're throwing things at the party, or go ahead and give them, you know, the equivalent? We could even give them heavy crossbows, at least give them the biggest damage die possible, because I don't really care about what they're proficient in. But they would have not as much of a damage modifier. There you go, Eric, looking up tentacles again. Let's see. Crossbow. I guess I could give them like a short bow or something too, but crossbow feels more guard-like. Crossbow feels like what you would give somebody who doesn't actually know how to shoot. Yeah. Like, if I was giving somebody that had no skill with shooting, I'm not going to give them a fucking bow. They need to be trained in that shit. I mean, I know technically you need to be trained to use a crossbow in D&D also, but I would literally give somebody a crossbow and be like, point and shoot. We could do light crossbow, or we could do a heavy crossbow to hit over possible damage, I say. Yeah, that's probably correct. Which is a D8. Because it's the dex is what it would use. Or we could give them a heavy crossbow if we really wanted to. I don't know if they would really use that. Where's a regular heavy? It's a D10, isn't it? Why on earth are these not alphabetical? Fuck, Roll20, what are we doing? just like randomly throws them all in there. Like, why? Why is it not alphabetical? There's a heavy crossbow. Yeah, it's a D10. I think I'll do light crossbow. That feels more appropriate. Heavy crossbow does feel like they would need to be a little bit more trained. A spear gun. Spear gun would be cool. Spear gun's like shooting. Well, I guess it's still a crossbow. I'm almost picturing like shooting javelins or something, but it's too. That's probably a spear gun. Would it be like a one-time use? All right, now where's the damn light crossbow? Fuck. There you are. All right, if I give you a light crossbow, Roll20 says, here's all the information you don't need. And we're also not going to do this part correctly, so what's the point of dragging this all in there? Ranged. 80, 320, one target. To hit would be... actually, to hit would be a lot worse also. Right? It'll only be like a +3 to hit. So math-wise, what is better? I forgot it's not just damage, it's also the hit. Because if we're using the dex... then I think they're only using the dex, so it's only a +3, which is kind of shitty. But the problem is we're looking at, what do we do? A +3 or a +6 at disadvantage? Probably the +3 ends up being better. What does advantage math out to be? Like a +5 or something on average? I know, but don't javelins have the same range restrictions? Aren't they also 20 feet? Okay, 30 feet, my bad. Javelins would be better. Does 30 feet make a big difference? Yeah, 30 feet I might be able to actually make do it. Yeah, I don't want to give them spear guns because the party's gonna be like, fucking yeah, spear guns, we'll take those. If they get to the edge of the ship, God, is Twirl the one that can grab people and drag them near? Because this is what this whole fight's gonna be. This fight's... I don't know. I have a feeling this fight may go really quickly because the party is going to be able to do things. No, Twirl has the ability to knock people back. I don't think he can grab and pull them. What I'd love to do, ideally, have the party step. We probably deal with this guy separately or have him retreat back. The party steps in. They get pelted by these guys doing range attacks. And then I secretly roll this guy's initiative. Although I did show a door here. Excuse me. So the party knows there's like a crane. And then this guy pops out of the crane. And is a secret other battler, which is why, if you noticed, he's going to be at number 4 because the first 3 are visible. Javelin of Lightning. But then you got to give the party a Javelin of Lightning. Yeah, you know what? Fuck you guys. All my guys also have Sharpshooter. Take that, stupid as fucking feet. We're gonna discuss like our top 5 I don't even know what to call it, most OP feats or something. And I guarantee Sharpshooter's gonna be the top of that friggin' list with a bullet. There's no question. And there's a lot of good feats out there. But man, Sharpshooter just has like 3 different feet worth of stuff baked into it. It's so damn good and so annoying. All right, so let's give them a javelin this time. Maybe that's the compromise I'm looking for. Let's get rid of this hand axe bullshit. I could have them use a light crossbow if I really need to get the range in there. Javelin. Also doesn't show up correctly in Roll20. Let's get that. Just call it a spear. Is there any difference between a javelin and a spear? Javelin's just a thrown spear, right? Oh, my bad. Spear actually can't be thrown as far. That's really fucking stupid. So a javelin is a spear meant to be thrown better. A spear only literally has a range, a non-disadvantage range of 20 feet. Javelin it is then. So ranged, we can use our full +6 to hit, our 1d6 +4, and our range is 30. Let's hide the descriptive text. And let's see, that looks a lot better. Wow. Well, I didn't waste the good attack roll and the good damage roll. I'm an attack of 20 and a damage of 10 with a javelin. My goodness, would I want to throw 2 of those at the party? Probably could. These guys are doing just fine. They kicked those manticores asses, frankly. Now, granted, I scaled it down and only used 2 manticores. But still, geez, I just could not roll very well at all. And due to the party actually splitting up and being able to surround the manticores, which I was not anticipating and was cool to see, they were able to really take advantage of that. All right, so we get them javelins. I think that'll solve their range problem. I'm satisfied with that. Let's back these guys up a little bit. Hopefully we can get them to come out on the walkway and have some fun with that. I want it to be a fun little challenge while there's still a fight. And without Mac, they won't have very good range options of their own, although they will have their 2 casters. And maybe, you know, Toril will fucking throw Hunger of Hadar, Bill Hader right here on the ship, so that would make me scatter a little bit. But the one saving grace is that you can't move Hunger of Hadar once it's down. By the way, I even put it on the board so you can see it in all its glory. So it does affect me for a solid round, but every enemy would just hightail the fuck out of there as soon as they can, even though it's kind of dark. So I kind of play around with that. If it's not an might enemy, I could see why they might just get lost in the darkness. But anybody else would just try and figure their way out as soon as possible. So they would just kind of run out of there, and then it's just sitting there. Inside the ship, though, the upper deck is the top, so that's got nothing going on. The chains. Actually, it does say you can use a successful DC 30 strength check to sever a chain. Or half a dozen shatter spells. That's amazing. I've never seen an adventure actually spell that out before. A DC 30 strength check, or prolonged heating, or half a dozen shatter spells. If anybody wants to spend more than like 2 shatters on a project that's not a complete impossibility, I would have to start being like, all right, they're spending a lot of spell slots for this. So you could perhaps shatter the chains, if not the crane, but that is good. I didn't see that before. But it would take you several shatter spells. So that's a good thing where if Savra does cast shatter thinking to destroy this, I would have a lot of the walkway break away, and I would show her doing some damage to the crane, but then I can be like, all right, you feel like it would take several more like focus shatters to be able to destroy this thing. And then if Gottwald's like, well, I can go destroy it, then he actually could motherfucking get a DC 30 on it. Although that's only one chain that he would destroy. It doesn't say if you can destroy the crane. But that's interesting. And yeah, obviously any action for doing that, especially if Gottwald's there like punching the chains or something, I would just move the fight up. That would be like, all right, you're kicking the hornet's nest over. Obviously, I want them to be down here fighting, but if you're literally trying to destroy the ship while you're on top of it, then we're going to have to bring out all the enemies to actually do the fight there. Hopefully we can be flexible with this. Such attempts also likely attract the attention of nearby scum. Yeah. So in the original adventure, there were 3 scum and 2 scum here, so that's 5. So I did take 1. I eliminated 1 and then moved 1 over to up here. and then obviously change them all to Deep Scion. So I put none of them in the first room, actually, because I think it's better to have the party drop down and experience the scalding hot, befouled water in here. Water hazard isn't boiling, but is uncomfortably hot and exceedingly foul. Take 1 fire damage and poison until the start of the next turn. If you start your turn in the water, and obviously the creatures are immune to it. Another thing, by the way, a hazard that the party has to deal with that the enemies do not, although enemies aren't immune to gravity, so I have a feeling they'll be knocking me over as much as I'll try to knock them over. Gottwald alone will just pick somebody up and drop them, I'm sure, once he gets a chance. When, you know, and let's let him. What the fuck? That's fine. That's fine. Technically, if I really wanted to, I could roll damage, see if the Deep Scion survives, and then track them to where maybe once the party finishes this fight and ends up down here fighting, I might have that Deep Scion have made it all the way over, you know, ducking inside the warehouse, running, dashing. How long would that take them, logically? Let's actually look at this. So if they fell, we're looking at 25 feet, 50 feet. I think the doors were about here, 40 feet. So that's 90, that's 110 feet or so. Just to get inside the warehouse. And then 40 feet, so we're looking at 150 feet to get to the stairs. And then you just keep going up the stairs, so that maybe is 160, 170 feet. So let's call that 180 feet to get back to the rickety walkway. These guys can move, what, 30 feet? If they're actually, if they're in hybrid form, they're slower. So that would take them 5 rounds or about 30 seconds if they were just hauling ass to get back up there. So clearly, if the party is stopping for a breather at all, short rest obviously, but they're just trying to like chill up here or something, we can definitely have any enemies that fall catch up. If those enemies survive, if I want to do the full 66 damage for fallen, or actually I think I counted as 50 feet from here and maybe 60 feet from the ship, which is an average of, what are we looking at, like 17, 18 damage for 5d6. I rolled pretty bad damage there. 12 damage to fall 50 feet. Gravity is strange in the Forgotten Realms. Like, very strange. The average level 2 character could survive falling 50 feet. That is a long fucking way to fall 50 feet. 17's more like it. 16, 15, yeah. 3. Oh, you're right. I forgot about dashing. Obviously, you can cover 60 feet if you're which you would be dashing, of course. So 3 rounds. So yeah. Don't know if they would be able to get back in the fight, but it would be interesting, especially if the party is paying attention. You see like that Deep Scion like pick himself up because you'd be prone. So I guess that would slow you down a little bit, but then just start hauling ass and running, knowing you would have to deal with that person again, although it would still do, you know, a little chunk of damage. But yeah, more than likely all these Deep Scions, unless they were almost dead, would probably survive a fall, as would the party. That's also good information for the party. If somebody falls, like Sabra could just climb up. Mac won't be here. But Gottwald and Toril, if they were to fall, they have no climb speed, but technically they could just spend their rounds dashing if nobody else can get them. It's not the end of the world. So, you know, it's not like a giant chasm or something of just unfathomable void or falling in another area. It's just the ground right there. Yeah, Monk Slowfall is crazier. Alright, we're talking about the ship, damn it. I was going to scale up the ship damage actually a little bit to make it more interesting. I think just do like a 1d4 for the fire damage. I do like the poison effect. Both those things only happen if a creature actually starts their turn there. So you can walk through it. You can, well, I guess if you end your turn, you would start your turn presumably. So that's the same thing. But once the party drops down in there, I would probably all have them I guess maybe I should roll a save for the initial. The only thing that makes me feel weird is if they're not in combat and they get in contact with it, then how do you time it in terms of did you start your turn there? Well, we're technically not taking turns right now. I guess you would look down, you would see a pool of water. If you just drop down without thinking about it, then you're gonna end up starting your turn. Maybe I'll do like a everybody who drops down makes either a deck save or athletics check if you're trying to make it so you can hop out of there really quickly. Maybe there can be some kind of check or save associated with that. But I do want to tease the fact that this water is very nasty and very hot. I think the poison only lasts, yeah, to the start of its next turn. So just kind of a temporary, like, gagging thing or something. And then anything they're doing here is obviously going to make a ton of noise. Like, these guys, unless the party is being weirdly quiet and have really dispatched the top guys very stealthily, these 3 Deep Scions in here will have been alerted to the party. They're already transformed, and they'll be ready to ambush the party basically as soon as they open the door. Oh, I guess I could do it where the Deep Scions open the door and get a surprise round off, but I feel like line of sight wise, they would just do the thing where they're like hiding to the sides. Although I gotta be worried about if the party can actually see any tokens on the side there. I don't know. It's close. May not want to literally put them that close to the edge. And then as soon as they open the door, I would basically trigger all of these attacks, have them all be like readied, or maybe not even readied. It would just be like their surprise round, right? Like they would be launching a surprise attack, although it's a triggering surprise attack. So I don't know. We'd have to see how well I can pull it off. But then Mr. Dory would be here through the open door, and we're doing the Kraken Priest. I did like that suggestion from last week. I may end up modifying it a little bit. I think I already did somewhat. Just to make sure he's got spells that can work for him while in this particular battle. Probably his best opening move, I would assume, is Everard's Black Tentacles. Big concentration AoE spell. Does damage, can restrain. You know, obviously it depends on initiative, but especially if they can get the surprise round off and he can just cast it like right here. Like just completely in this fucking area. That would be huge. And then all the parties having to deal with these tentacles and all that nastiness while these guys can just sit back and either melee attack anybody up close or fire their ranged attacks, while Mr. Dory, after doing that concentration, can like duck back, and now the party has to deal with this giant spell, and he just continues to pop out to do his abilities. That would be absolutely fantastic. So hopefully we can get that off. Toro, on the other hand, getting off his Hunger Vidar in here could be pretty bad. I haven't introduced any kind of bullshit things like, oh, can the Fathomless power abilities affect those who also follow the Fathomless? I was even thinking about having having the Kraken Priest's Voice of the Kraken ability and allow Twirl to either get advantage to it or even complete immunity to it, because he is a Fathomless worshiper. Slarkarthel's his patron, and the Aboleth is like protecting him pretty much exactly like the artifact from Baldur's Gate 3. So I thought that might be a funny way to do it, but on the other hand, does that work both ways, or would that be kind of shitty if like Twirl's like abilities aren't working in here or something? I don't want to. It feels like it would be kind of shitty to do that to a player character, even if it's like thematically appropriate. Cumulative damage for consecutive turns in the water, maybe. Grapple Gottwald as he grapples them. I grapple you. Which Deep Scions, I mean, they got that +4. Not too bad at grabbing people. And yeah, they have a +3 to stealth, so I guess that would be what I'd have to do ultimately in order to ambush the party. I would actually have to use their stealth against the party, if the party cares, or maybe use their passive perception, which I could either roll their stealth, or I would just take this +3 and say, okay, they have an average of 13 for a stealth. Does that beat anybody's passive perception? And is anybody bothering to actually roll perception to see if there's anybody at the door? Gottwald actually does have a 13 passive. I know I've looked this up before, and this is not a good team with good passive perceptions. Mac is a 14. I should have a note somewhere. Sabra has a 14. Team Silence are actually not very good at stealth. And Twirl's got a 12. So they're all either 12, 13, or 14. So a 13 would normally not really be enough to ambush the party. Maybe some of them. But maybe I'll have them roll stealth and the party can... And just check their passive perception, I guess. Midships. I'm ignoring this whole part about a random assassin in the group. I'm actually probably going to put this assassin, which I think I already did that, in the next area. Basically, the Mind Flayer is just finished winter soldiering the next serial killer when the party shows up. So they'll see that whole process in the end of it. And then... I know I didn't use an assassin, did I? I think I ended up... That was right. I ended up looking up... was it the spy, I think? Somebody that's maybe not quite as strong as an assassin, because I didn't want to CR8 next to the Mind Flayer. But somebody was kind of halfway there. I think the spy was pretty close to doing that for the next area. But I think we're going to avoid or ignore all this part about the assassin here. We'll just keep these guys. Then Mr. Dory's chamber. And Dory normally has a flesh golem made from fish. I don't think we're going to use that here. I don't know. Maybe there's some kind of fun, weird water creature I could use that wouldn't be too out of the ordinary. The party's still doing just fine, so I probably wouldn't worry about adding too much difficulty here. I don't want to add anything like a Chul or a Scum necessarily here. But there's got to be something that's cooler than a Flesh Golem, I think. Although it would combo very good with his Lightning Bolt, I will admit. It's like a giant Frankenstein's monster, but made out of fish parts. God, they're painful, too. 2 slam attacks with a +7 to hit. Average of 13 damage, but then they have that weird Berserk thing. Subject to lightning damage, takes no damage, and regains a number of hit points. Also, 100 hit points. It's just... It's an upgraded... You know what it is? It's an upgraded zombie. That's what a Flesh Golem is. Shitty AC. Basic attack. Does not have undead fortitude. You know, I've been wanting to use that stupid shark jaw thing forever, haven't I? I think I actually put it in here at one point because we're going to use it somewhere else. Shark jaw skeleton from... I think it was the original Tomb of Beasts. Tome of Beasts. This beauty. I just love this fucking art. So stupid. Numerous interlocking shark's jaws. These horror animated through foul magic, large, vaguely humanoid shape. Pretty cool. It's actually large. 45 hit points, AC of 13. Large might be tricky to maneuver down here. Makes 1 bite attack and 1 claw attack, and the bite actually grapples. Yeah. Surprised it's only a CR1, man. Tomb of Beasts. It's a little crazy with their stats versus their CR rating. That is cool looking. The coolest thing to do would have it be like coming out of the water. Maybe I could have just a giant pile of bones in the corner. And then it could be animated at some point. Like Mr. Dory does a whole action when things get really crazy. Or maybe it's just something that guards him at the very last minute. It like reaches out to his masters and it animates this pile of fish bones together, including these shark jaws that are here for whatever reason. Why do you keep a bunch of shark jaws in the corner? Oh, you'll fucking see. Just you wait. Yeah, I could see. And that's one of those things that's like, we'll see how the fight's going, but that could be a fun thing to add. And that's not too many hit points. But could be appropriate, especially if the party is kind of kicking my ass or doing really well. We could have that little addition be in there. Shark Jaw Skeleton. For Mr. Dory, I've raised his hit points to 100. His stat block is still a lot weaker than the original from the Styes, which is just the most hilarious stat block you've ever seen. He's got all kinds of spells and crazy abilities. But again, this is for level 11. Yeah, 170 hit point. Like, that is 18 armor class. And the dude is broken. Even at level 11, this dude's broken. He's not even the final boss. He's not even the penultimate boss. There are like multiple bosses that you fight in this level 11 adventure as originally written. Mr. Dory is just the first guy. Then you eventually go and have to fight the single Aboleth, although you can talk to him. Then you go fight a pair of Aboleths, although you could talk to them. Then you go fight the juvenile Kraken. You do not talk to the Kraken. You just fight it. That's a lot of big things, though, and this one is the biggest. I like the idea of using him as a spellcaster, but he does not have to have all these hilariously awesome stats. Instead, Kraken priest stats. I think we gave him a lightning bolt instead of call lightning because he can't technically see the sky and use that to call lightning down. If there's any other appropriate spells, or the main thing I'm concerned about is him having ranged attacks that don't require, I guess, a spell. Like, he's got lightning bolt would be great, but lightning bolt could hit all of his allies, so that also makes it really tricky to launch, you know, because it's just a laser blast of energy and would just zap the hell out of the Deep Scion, so I'd be tricky with that one. Everett's Black Tentacles I would definitely do as opening move. But it's supposed to be, he's only doing all these once per day, so once he loses concentration on that, that's it. Lightning Bolt's not concentration, which is good, but again, the problem of hitting his own allies. Darkness, probably not worth using. Obviously, none of these others are combat. Command is his really only good range attack he has, which does force wisdom saves and could yell at, you know, Gottwald, and I guess where a lot of people probably don't have good wisdom saves, actually, when I think about it. Might be highly exploitable, one might say. Never mind, Troll's got a +5. What the fuck? So wise, that stupid bird. Savra also has a +4. Okay, now I'm feeling less confident about using wisdom. Good old Mac has a +1. And Gottwald has a +0. Alright, so your front line's not good at wisdom. The DC is unfortunately not too crazy high either. DC 13. +5 to hit with spell attacks for the Kraken Priest. So if we have any cantrip or spell ideas that we can give him, he doesn't need a whole lot. Voice the Kraken is a good ability. I guess I'll probably still keep that. It seems pretty thematic for somebody who's high up in the Kraken Society. You can just scream, I guess, is what I would picture. Or yelling out with this thunderous blast. Forcing everybody to succeed on DC 14 Charisma save or be frightened for a minute, but you can repeat the save. However, you can only do that once per turn. So really, we're looking at turn 1, Everett's Black Tentacles, hopefully surprise round. Turn 2, Voice the Kraken, I think, to make everybody debuffed. And then we're looking at turn 3 on what we want to try to do. Once we have enough, you know, enemies, allies down, we can throw a lightning bolt. You should only have one of those per day. Thunderous Touch is a hilariously, hugely damaging ability, but it is melee only. You picture like a spellcaster like, oh, I need to get up there and like, you know, melee the spellcaster, make sure he can't cast spells, but then like his most damaging ability is just a basic melee hit with its +5 to hit and does 5d10 thunder damage on average. Or average of 27. Wow. He also has damage resistance, but I think all of my party has magic weapons or spells, so I don't think that. I think even Mac has a +1 bow, which I guess makes. I don't know if that technically makes your arrows magical or not, actually. I don't know how pedantic I want to be about that. That would actually cut a lot of the damage up for Mr. Door if he's resistant to Mac stuff, because Mac is the main DPS. I don't know how far they'll make it in this session, by the way. We're down a player, and it always feels like if any session definitely doesn't want to go very long, it's when you're not having your full crew. And it's really going to depend on how long this crane boat battle up here lasts. Is this going to be a giant, hour-long battle? Is it going to be a 20-minute thing of people getting knocked over and then moving on to the next one? Because it very well be we could actually make it to this Mr. Dory battle, and then that would definitely be the last thing, unless something insane happens, like Sauron using all of her shatter spells on the ship to down it, and then everybody gets damaged inside. Mr. Dory would also surrender at some point. Probably all the Deep Scions would fight to the death, but I think, and Mr. Dory is designed to not fight to the death. Does it say somewhere? Dory's tactics. Room situation. If this range becomes Diary casts Etherealness in an attempt to escape. The golem is defeated and Dory is captured. His bravado vanishes. All right, it doesn't mention specifically when he surrenders, but a lot of the modern D&D adventures will say something like, when so-and-so reaches 20 hit points or 30 hit points or fewer, then they'll surrender is kind of what I was looking for. I'll probably just gauge it based on the battle, but if he's getting down, I mean, he's at 100 hit points, so if he's at 30 or less, then he's at 30% hit points. That's probably around the time he's starting to surrender. He would give up the information, which would probably be better for the party to have that. Also, I would pull off the thing I did with Ned, if we recall, where same thing, they were trying to subdue Ned and get information from him. They did get some information, but right after, the dramatic reveal of just enough information, the mind-flared Kraken sends out like a psychic feedback thing into the dude's brain and just fries the whole brain. And I'll probably just repeat that here. So they don't have to worry about, like, do we take this guy in? Do we just kind of murder him? Like, what should we do? His whole place is corrupt. Be like, I'm actually going to have him die. But I do want him to give up some information. So Tori's willing to give up this information because he knows its time in the Styes is coming to an end. He must trigger as much final mayhem as it can. He wants the character to seek out and slaughter its members. Nurses guard for men's come to swing back. Runs the character ruining his fun. I don't think that's necessarily how it's going to go for me. Jamie was guilty. Yeah, this is the important thing. Jamie was guilty of the Lantern Ghost murders, technically, but was never anything but a mind-controlled pawn. So it's kind of just a tragic thing that happened where he identically did do the kills, but it's the Winter Soldier problem, which happens a lot in Marvel Comics, which is somebody was mind-controlled and taken over, and so they weren't technically did it, even though their body performed the act. So very nebulous gray area there. The cult, which you could just say the Kraken Society Temple, is thriving in the low quarter. And then he can explain how recently maybe like an emissary of the Fathomless has come to us saying great things are coming and, just promising all kinds of betterment in the city and whatnot. And but he's definitely in charge and we work for him. And Counselor Dory's fine with that. As a autocrat, he would respect other autocrats. The cultists augment the spawn's growth by incubating in the fear. Oh, yeah, identified as a spawn of the Dark God. I don't know how much of that I want to tell the party, actually. Because the party already knows, like, the mind flayers here and kind of behind everything, but not necessarily what other things are happening. They have no idea there's another Kraken here, for example. Ghost Murder Sept to amplify the fear. Cultists hope to have their god spawn fully grown in a matter of weeks. Story does know the location of the cult's temple and gladly shares it. Which he can, maybe I'll sputter that same cool bit about it's where the lamp's shadow falls in evening or something. I forgot what did it say? Where it says, this is not where it says it is. Locate the cause, which anticipates health service will increase young one grows most size and appetites. Find someone to resume the lantern ghost task and bring the candidate to the temple where we shall praise its worth. That part will probably be what I'm doing, because the deep scions were definitely sent to grab the person. I guess I could put more deep scions in the temple also, although it feels like the party will have gotten their fill at this point. They're probably going to see all those. Originally, I was going to have all those cultists, turn into scum. They're going to think all those cultists that are down there at the temple are all deep scions. They're going to be like, fucking, let's just throw a shadow down there. And then I could have them turn into scum, which would be pretty fun. Where did it say that one thing about the... Seek their pulpit. There it is. Seek their pulpit in the evening shadow of Frother's lamp. So the temple lies in the evening shadow of Frother's lamp is probably how I'll do it. And then, yeah, they can go back to Dr. Rephram and say, what the fuck is Frother's lamp? And he'll say, that's the name of the old watchtower, or the old light tower, sorry. Lighthouse. What the fuck am I trying to say? Lighthouse. The thing with the ships and the tower. The fuck is a lighthouse? Light tower? Yes. Frother's lamp, the lighthouse, and they'll have to see which, and God, I already said it was evening time, so they either haul ass over there right now and take care of it, which hopefully they would, or they'll be like, all right, fuck it, let's go long rest. And honestly, I could go either way. If the party really wanted to say, all right, we've got all this down, can we just long rest? I would probably hang back and not have much of an argument if they wanted to. I mean, we could tease it like, oh, another murder happened. Don't you guys feel shitty about that? But like, oh yeah, but we're like long rested and now we're ready to take on the threats a lot better. So there's a little bit of a disconnect between, I guess, my party caring about people and caring about their own strength. But for the most part, they've been pretty good at accepting the pacing of D&D 5e and not long resting too much. But this would be an interesting test of that, I feel. Whether they want to go straight there or they're like, all right, well, let's just stop for a second and have a long rest. Now, right now, they're not anything close to a long rest, and they barely did a short rest before, although I think Sovereign did use her Arcane Recovery after that Mana Core fight already, because she did actually use like a Polymorph spell just for utility, which was fun. I think it might have been the first time we'd seen Polymorph outside of combat. I actually really enjoyed that. It'll be really interesting to see how these two fights go, I guess, and that'll determine what the players are feeling on how well they can do. Oh, I forgot one of those lighthouses. Really? That's awesome. I mean, they still exist. Lighthouses are still out there. Most of the ones I encounter in D&D are haunted and creepy, though. I don't know. I assume the average lighthouse is not haunted and creepy, but it's such a unique design that I feel like everybody can picture, and very few of us have actually like been inside a lighthouse. I don't think I've actually ever been inside a lighthouse when I think about it. Barely even see them. I think that's going to do it for this crafting session. I mean, we've made a ton of details about this one little area and these two fights coming up, but it's very important. I think on Thursday's crafting session, we'll focus more on the final area, which we did last week as well. The actual temple area, which will cover probably and I have no idea how many sessions we're looking at, by the way. I don't have, like, this is it. We've got those two battles in the warehouse, and then however many battles we decide to do here in the temple, and then the final one against the Kraken, and that's basically it for this adventure. So I don't know if that's another... I think we're looking at anywhere between 2 and 4 sessions remaining, depending on how much combat this goes through. So it'll be interesting to see. But for now, that will do it for this Monday edition of Crafting the Deep. If you enjoy the content, as always, please check out patreon.com/RollToWin Rogue Watson. Shouts to Platinum Patrons, Joe, Will, Thomas, Stan, Brandon, Zenicider, Eclectic, Roleplayer, Roll, Christopher, Corey, Big Nut, John F, John L, Eric, Tyler, Nathan, Crystal Counselor, Andrew, Dale, Reldron, Captain 2079, Stephanie, Patrick, Jason, Ismail, Amit, Libby, Spud, Sharni, David, William, Warden, Cutest Fox, Harold, Salmon, Eudaimonia, LLC, and Gold Patrons, RPG, Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Does Lounge, Sam, Jerome, Nathan, Fazliga, Tortoise, Scott, Rufus, Carolyn, Jerry, Glenn, Marcus, and Mark. Thank you all very much for your support. I will see you for more crafting on Thursday.